I'm going to take the next few minutes just to recap what's happened over the last few days. Director Dr. Gupta brought us the administration's message, and in the State of the Union, when we hear the president address just three policy issues: domestic, international, economic policy. We used to get excited when I worked for President Bush when words that suggested an awareness of drug control issues came out of the president's mouth during the State of the Union. The next year after I got there, that president introduced the President's Treatment Initiative, and I felt like I was at a Michigan football game scoring against Ohio State. But this year, the president, as you may be well aware, as Patty noted, this year, President Biden addressed recovery broadly and comprehensively. And what you may not know is that this administration has really made it a point to hire people in recovery and work on that. It's evidenced by Dr. Gupta's reporting on the strategy and how important recovery is to the strategy. John Kelly came and leveled the playing field for us in terms of our knowledge by talking about the history of building recovery capital and the elements of treatment and how they vary in their ability to lead to treatment outcomes, but also what we need to know to get more people to move from treatment and into recovery, to move from recovery readiness to recovery. Our NIH and SAMHSA panel reminded us of how far we've come in thinking less categorically and more broadly about recovery, while at the same time recognizing that internal and external forces change recovery potential for people. Some attention on that panel was paid to the role of stress and environment of care and the biological basis of vulnerability with decreased incentives to seek non-drug using rewards. But despite Dr. Volkov's research portfolio and attention to the biological basis of this disease, with the disease as being one of impaired motivation and choice, she really promoted a comprehensive response to this disease and brought SAMHSA and their work into the conversation on more than one occasion. Dr. Koob informed us that NIAAA's definition of alcoholism has evolved from frequency and amount tests, and it looks at cessation of heavy drinking and remission of the DSM-5 criteria as essential to understanding recovery. And Dr. Delphin Rittman's experience in Connecticut was showing, as she delineated the role of recovery-oriented systems of care, talked about health, home, community, and purpose, and their role in instilling hope, respect, and culture in our work in treatment and recovery. She also reminded us of the work of certified behavioral community health clinics and in offering the services that are essential for recovery, including crisis management and access to groups. Peter Gauman reminded us of the work of ONDCP and really gave us a view into how this recovery division at ONDCP is really working to bring about the marriage of public health and public safety. And Yuri Maracek gave us an example of how research can be used to develop services, why it's essential that we have research in this area, and he delineated for us what more needs to be done. In our Pathways to Recover panels, we looked at the internal and external locus of control issues with Ronnie Otsby's panel. Drs. Tucker, Timko, and Pact looked at how the Recovery Journal starts, what supports recovery, how technology can be used to support recovery, and what more is needed. And in looking at the pathways to recovery, the external conditions or social determinants of healthcare that was led by Dr. Deidre Roach from NIAAA. We heard from Dr. Merkel, Dr. Zinmore, and Dr. Shidal that recovery is a process that needs to be support at all times, but needs different support at different times, with a focus on those who are young, people in the criminal legal system, and the post-treatment early recovery supports that are needed to address disparities in healthcare. Making recovery possible with Dr. Vilsant and the government representatives, and then Andy Finch and the non-governmental sector helped us to understand how to put all of this thought and research into action. And last year, or 2 years ago at this recovery supported meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about what was being done in research, what was going to be needed to support research. We saw portfolios come out from NIH, NIAAA, and NIDA to support our recovery researchers. And now we really are talking about how we use the information that these recovery researchers are creating, the portfolio, the fund of information that they're developing in order to develop services. Thanks to Dr. Dimitrovic, Baldwin, and Hyde, and then Dave Sheridan, Patty McCarthy, and Christian Canfield with their interactive panels. And I'm glad we brought them together to get that interaction between government and non-governmental sectors. Tom Cordier didn't disappoint with eliminating barriers and increasing opportunities, and having the interaction between employers and unions and individuals who are concerned about what the government is doing to eliminate stigma was great, and really laid a good foundation for this last panel, where we were talking about the media, reducing stigma, looking at research of what media coverage has done to reduce stigma, taking the 25-year view, and then looking at how we use the law to eliminate discrimination, which is a result of stigma. So we are pleased to have come across this 2-day journey with you. But now we have to talk about what we will do as organizations and as individuals as a result of having been at this summit. What are you going to do now? FMG has committed their pro bono services to work with GRI to write a full report of the summit. We'll make the recordings available to you, and you can spend your time combing over it and looking for suggestions of things that your organization can do. We're going to get the report out. GRI has committed to getting additional ideas, recommendations, and thoughts from all of you and others who could not be with us today, and then to share this report with the public and the private sector to provide insights and ideas that will create additional actionable recommendations for policy and for funding to advance recovery. As you're aware, GRI has a particular interest in the role that philanthropic organizations play in helping to create an environment that supports recovery. And we will be working with FOR, the Foundation for the Opioid Response Effort, which was funded 3 years ago, and whose board I chair, to make sure that our actionable ideas get represented in their announcements over the coming years, so that we can see how to fund these things. All of you who have spoken and are attending the summit are thought leaders who understand the importance of connecting the dots on SUD prevention, intervention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery. Research that informs the development of impactful support services in recovery needs to be funded. Recovery support services need to be funded. Employers need to create workplaces where people can thrive in their recovery. And the insurance industry needs to see the importance of covering these things. Many thanks to our planning committee, to the many FMG staff who made the summit possible, and to the corporate support of GRI from Pear Therapeutics and ASLE. Our moderators, panelists, and speakers, all of you who spent your valuable time as participants. And my colleague, Kathy Harnett, is here.
I'm busting in. I'm busting in at the end of this because I want to say that our gratitude, I think, on behalf of everyone who's been here, to you, Andrea, for chairing this, for all the thought you put into it and all that you have done. I'm thrilled to have you on the Global Recovery Initiatives Foundation board. And I kind of want to say, close with this. I've spent my life in social change movements. One of the things I've learned is nothing changes without public, private, and culture. And my best example is, without Will and Grace, we would not have gay marriage. And I think that one of the amazing things about all the people that participated in this summit is they came from the private, the public, and really the pop culture era, because we are all that. And you're really good at pop culture, Dr. B. You have a sense of humor. You just went to the Emmys with your daughter, and
she brought one back.
We're out to change the world. Advancing a recovery-ready nation is a movement, and we had all of you here today, and thank you so much. And good luck, everyone. You're not done with us. Andrea and
We'll
I
be in
have
touch.
much more to engage you in. And FMG has a staff that has really done everything they possibly could to make this happen. And so all my pals at FMG, thank you so much. And thank you all for attending and putting the energy and the thought you put into all your comments. And Andrea, you are crowned queen of the day for the
Thank
work
you.
you did.
And I am wearing my gray crown. Thank you very
That's
much.
right.
Yes, it's been terrific to be here, and it's been a real blast seeing everybody again. And you will be hearing from us. We want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.